All right, what's up everybody? I recently passed the $100,000 FTMO challenge a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to go over some of the trades that I took. Overall, I took 67 trades to complete the challenge, so I won't be able to go over every single one. Some of the trades were multiples taking on the same setup. In reality, I probably took around 30 actual trade setups. Now, I've been trading for a little over 2.5 years now, and I've found 8 high probability trading patterns along the way. These are the setups that I trade every single day, and over time I've noticed that all of them have a very high win rate, and they also show up very often. Usually I'll see multiple trade opportunities during each session. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the trades and trade setups that I used to complete the challenge. So as you can see here, I got the challenge done in 5 days. The rules state that you need a minimum of 10 trading days to get the challenge done. I was actually able to get it done much faster than that. My first day was a really good start. I had a $1,673 profit that day, which was a great way to start the challenge. And my first big wins from that day came from the USD CAD pair. So let's go ahead and check that out. So this really big move here all happened on the 24th, my first day of the challenge. And the first trades that I took came from this move right here. So this was a retrace trend continuation. You had a really steady move up here. Got a 50% retrace, pretty much exactly 50% in this case. And then it continues upward from there. The best thing about this move is you had a nice little consolidation before it continued upwards. Sometimes it will come down and then immediately go back up. It doesn't really give you a lot of time to actually get into the move. So these are the best types of retrace TCs. So how that looks, how you would actually how you would actually set the trade. You would, the safest way would be to set a buy stop above this consolidation area and put your stop loss down below the consolidation area. You can keep it pretty tight. You don't really have to put it too much further down. If it's already consolidating, then it's most likely not going to go down too far or down much further than the consolidation area. And you could go for 2 reward, but more often than not, retrace trend continuations often do go 3 or 4 reward. In this case, it went like 10 reward. I wouldn't set my sights on 10 reward. Usually just go for 2 or 3. This just happened to be a really big move. So that was the first move there. But with this pattern, with this big move upward, you had multiple trading patterns, multiple different places that you could have got in if you missed the first one. So you also had another consolidation trend continuation here. You also had an EMA trend continuation there. Had another consolidation trend continuation there. And another one here. And another one here. You actually had a parabolic top here. Now it is a little bit risky to go. It's a little bit risky to go against the trend like that, but since it came up so much further than it should, this was actually a valid trade and it did work. You also had another EMA trend continuation there. And at the top here, we have a very shallow double top, which I wouldn't trade that as a double top, but it actually ended up coming down and forming an engulfing top. So you could have taken it as that. And that's pretty much it for the move upward. You get a bunch of different trade opportunities down here also. So as you can see, there's always multiple different trade patterns happening all throughout the session. This whole move here took about 9 or 10 hours. So within that time span, you had what, 8 different trade opportunities, and this is only on one pair. I trade 21 pairs right now, so I mean there were multiple different trade opportunities happening on those pairs also. So my point in saying that is you don't really have to ever take bad or choppy trade patterns. Just wait for actual patterns to show up in order to take a trade, and your win rate will go up much higher from there. So another thing to consider here, is it better to trail big trades like this, or is it better to just scalp and go for the 2R or the 3R? I personally think it's better to go for 2R almost every single time. I've noticed that moves almost always go 2R. It's less often that they'll go 3. So it's usually better to go that route. And as far as trailing, let's say you trail this move from the first trade here, this retrace trend continuation here, and then you moved your stop up as the move went up. Once the move went up past here and broke these levels, you can move your stop up to here. Once it broke this level, you can move your stop up to here. And the same thing here, you'll move your stop up there. Once the moved up past this consolidation area, and then you would move it here, and then you would move it here. And once you get a solid top pattern, this move had already went, I believe, 130 pips at this point, which for a major pair is a lot. Usually major pairs only go up maybe like 60 or 70 pips at a time before it'll come down. So the safe exit would be either here after this double top and engulfing top pattern, or if you wanted to give it a little bit more room, you could have also gotten out here. So in either of those situations, let's see how many pips that would be. So if you went for the safer exit, you would have gotten 105 pips. If you went for the slightly riskier, you would have got 100. So if you'd have taken all of these trades as true reward instead of trailing, you've gotten, let's see, 3, 4, 8 times 2, 16. So you would get 16 reward from entering each trade individually, or you would get around 10 reward for trailing the trade. So trailing even really doesn't end up being better than scalping in the end if you ended up doing it the exact same way. If you're going to be sitting there managing the trade, you could do it either way. You might as well just go for the true reward. And in that case, if the move does end up coming down, you at least got your pips already, and they're not going to get canceled out. Basically, if you just trail the whole entire thing, you end up losing wherever you moved your stop to. So I'm still on the side of scalping. Scalping to reward, I think, is still the best way to go most of the time. So another thing that I wanted to point out is if you can get multiple moves, multiple patterns in the same trade, it actually ends up strengthening the pattern and making it even more likely that it'll end up being a successful trade. So something like this right here, this is a consolidation, trend continuation, and also an EMA trend continuation. So the chances of that pattern going through is even higher. Sometimes you'll even get 3 patterns combined into one. Usually when that happens, you can safely go for 3 reward, sometimes even 4, just depending on how tight the entry is. So that's just something to keep in mind. Also, the reason that this move went up so far is mainly because the dollar index Let's see if we can get to the right day here. The dollar index was moving so heavy that day, which caused all of the major pairs to also trend really heavy. So the indexes, the dollar index and all the other indexes, they form patterns just like the pairs do. So for example, here we have a consolidation trend continuation forming on the dollar index, and this is happening around 315. So if we look back at our USD CAD move, you can see right at 315 is when this EMA trend continuation started. And if we go to our GBP USD and we look at 315, this is where EMA trend continuation started, and we also got a big engulfing bar right at the same time. So you can use the dollar index to basically be able to tell where all the other correlated dollar pairs are going to go. All right, so those were the USD CAD moves that I took. Well, some of the USD CAD moves that I took. I showed you a bunch more, but we also had some moves over here on the GBP CAD. So we had a double bottom right here, right at the open. And we also had an inverse head and shoulders right over here. Now, let me tell you that the head and shoulders and consolidation breakouts are the rarest of all of the patterns. You really don't see them too often, but they're high probability just like the others, and you definitely want to enter when you do see those. This actually ended up forming a really extended engulfing bottom right here. You usually don't really want it to go up that far, but since it consolidated so well here, you could have put a buy stop here and also won that trade there. And we had a couple more trades that day. Let's see. My internet is going extremely slow today. Let's see if I can even pull this up. Okay, so we had the GBP CAD trades, made close to 1,000, I believe, from those. And then we also had a couple trades on the GBP USD that same day. So this big move is just the inverse of that same USD CAD move that I showed you earlier. It's literally the same move, just in reverse, since the GBP is in front of the USD on this pair. So there were a bunch of trade opportunities here. Also, I took my trade, I believe I took it here as a consolidation trend continuation. I believe that's where I took my trade. I wanted to point one more thing out. I no longer take trades before the open of the session because things like this will happen. So before the session started right here, the London session over here on the West Coast, it starts at midnight. So we already had a consolidation breakout over here, which is a great signal for a move downward. But as soon as the open happened, we got a huge spike upward. And depending on where you put your stop loss, you might have even got swung out of your trade there. So what you can do is just wait for the open and just don't touch anything beforehand. You might even see like some really good setups just like this one happening. It's just too risky. It gets a little bit chaotic right around the market open, and that goes for all the sessions: New York, Asian session, Australian session. Anytime as soon as the session starts, you're going to see some really big choppy movements. So it really is best to just wait for the session to open before you take any trades. So if you were to do that, you would also have an EMA trend continuation here. And you got a consolidation trend continuation there. You got another EMA TC here. This is a much more shallow one here. I wouldn't trade that, but it is tradable and it would have worked, obviously. You had the inverse of that same parabolic top that I showed you on the USD CAD. You have a parabolic bottom here. So again, it is pretty risky to go against the trend like that, but in this type of situation, it does actually work. So parabolic bottom there, and then you got another EMA trend continuation here. And that was pretty much it for the move down. So multiple trades on both of those pairs, and I'm sure the Euro USD, the AUD USD, the NZD USD also had multiple trades happening also. So there were those trades. I took a couple multiples on the GBP CAD move, another USD CAD trade here. Actually took a loss on the AUD NZD. And that was day one. And then day two, you can see I had a really bad day here, especially compared to the first day. What ends up happening when you have super heavy trending moves on one day, usually the next day will be followed by a lot of choppiness. The forex market is very cyclical. It's rare that a currency will just go up and up and up against another currency, unless there's some type of conflict or economic disturbance happening. So if a pair has trended really heavy one day, it'll usually get stuck in range and not move as much the following day. So I didn't remember to keep that in mind and took a bunch of unnecessary losses. I did end up leaving the session early that day. I found myself breaking a lot of my trading plan rules, and I decided to step away, clear my head, and come back for a fresh start on the next session the following day. So I came back on the 26th the next day. I had mixed results this day, had a couple wins, couple losses. Definitely not steady like the first day, but at least not terrible like the second day. And then later on in the session, you can see I ended up getting back on track. Definitely broke some rules here, and I'm not extremely proud of the way I was trading on the third day. I'll be honest with you, I just wanted to finish the challenge so I could get started with trading the funded account, and that really caused me to do some reckless things. You definitely have to keep yourself in check while you're doing the challenge. But either way, the patterns I trade have a very high win rate. So even with my slightly reckless behavior, I was still able to come out on top and complete the challenge anyway. If I had just taken it easy with the risk management, I still would have completed the challenge and I would have had way less losses. So using a stable amount of risk, around 2 to 4% per trade for the FTMO challenge, really is the way to go. If you know what you're doing, it'll take a little bit longer, but you'll finish it anyway, and you'll have way less chance of making any fatal mistakes along the way. So back to the trades. I won't go over all these, but I will show you some of the big wins. I had an AUD NZD trade here, which I got $2,039 from. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one. So here on the AUD NZD, we had an inverse head and shoulders right here. So that ended up working out really well. You also had some EMA trend continuations over here. Actually 3 of those before it ended up coming down. So a pretty easy trade there. So if you ever do miss the first pattern, so a good entry for this inverse head and shoulders here would be right there. You would buy right there, or set a buy stop right there. But even if you miss the first move, you can get in as a trend continuation here anyway, and you could just take it as an EMA trend continuation either here or here. So it's almost always better to get into a move as a trend continuation because you already have the momentum working in your favor. If you're trying to like find the move before it actually happens, you'll run into a lot of losses that way, especially trading on the lower time frames like the 5-minute like I usually trade. So if you're able to enter as a trend continuation, that's usually the better way to go, and you'll have a lot less losses that way. So let's look at some more notable trades here. and a couple just small wins kind of all over the place. But we then had $2,200 on the Euro USD. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one. Okay, so we had quite a few good moves here. This is where I took my trade here, I believe. So it's a consolidation, trend continuation. You could even call that a consolidation breakout, and it's also an EMA trend continuation. So a nice big combination move here. We had some good moves here before the market opened, but remember what I told you about the market open and how it gets so chaotic at the beginning of the session. I just stay away from it now. You'll miss a couple moves, but if you do trade before the market open, you'll probably lose a lot more than you end up winning anyway. So it's better to just wait for the open. So a bunch of good moves here. EMA trend continuation here. Had a parabolic bottom here and another parabolic bottom here. This one was pretty much perfect. You're looking for 2 color change bars. That was one of the better patterns. It's great when they show up perfectly like that. It doesn't always show up perfect like a picture, but every once in a while it does. And also an EMA trend continuation here. If you got in here and got stopped out, you will get back in here and it will go through. So a couple good trades on day 3. Okay, so this was the last day here. This is where I really got my head on straight. I was determined to get this thing done. I had one little mistake here on the USD JPY, but other than that, I didn't have any losses for the entire day. I compounded my wins and ended up getting $8,316 in just 10 trades. Most notably, these NZD USD shorts here. I took 3 trades on the same move and came out with $2,510 from those 3 moves. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so a bunch of good trades here. I took mine as a consolidation trend continuation once again, and I entered multiple on the same trade. And you also had an EMA trend continuation here also. And technically there's one here too. It's a little bit shallow for my taste, but it would have worked out. So got a really good profit from those. I also had another really good compounded trade on the USD JPY. So we'll take a look at that one also. So this was a bunch of different EMA trend continuations happening all at once. You had one here, which was very choppy, but it worked. And you had 3 more entry points over here. Any of those 3 would have worked also. I believe I took mine on this one, this second one here. All right, so those were my USD JPY trades. So these final 2 Euro USD trades got me $3,200, and that was enough to complete the challenge. As you guys saw, the trade patterns that had the best amount of success were almost always some form of trend continuation, more specifically the EMA trend continuation. It's a very high probability pattern, and they happen all the time, and they almost go at least to reward, if not more. So if you're just starting out, I would recommend learning trend continuations first, as you'll get the largest amount of success from trading those. So let's go ahead and take a look at the last 2 trades on the 28th. So this was yet another EMA trend continuation, and we took that right here. And I took 2 trades on the exact same move. Ended up taking profit probably right here somewhere. So that was the last trade that I took. So yeah, that was my trade breakdown for the challenge. I'm currently in the process of completely redoing my course, the Profitable Forex Trading course, over at ccxcollective.com. I have a wait list up on the site, so make sure to join in and you'll be notified once I finish recording everything. It was already a really good course as is, but I've gained a lot of knowledge and experience over time. I've modified and simplified a lot of my trading, and with all the added information I'm putting in, it really will be the only guide that you need to learn how to trade profitably. So if you want more details on the risk management and the compounding strategies I used for the challenge, go ahead and check out the other video I did where I covered those topics in detail, and I'll put that video up in the top bar. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, enjoyed the trade breakdown. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think about everything I just covered. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content about forex trading and other long-term investments. Remember to always trade responsibly, and I'll see you guys later.